Well, new details in the recovery efforts in Baltimore following the Key Bridge collapse. Officials now have a tentative timeline of reopening the channel for the Port of Baltimore. DC News Now's weekend anchor Tosin Pakile joins us now with that information. And Tosin, the timeline is now just a matter of weeks.
That's absolutely right. And this is new information from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They say after studies and assessment, they expect to open a limited access channel 280 feet wide and 35 feet deep to the Port of Baltimore by the end of this month. Earlier this week, Governor Moore had said to get larger vessels through the channel, they needed a depth of at least 35 feet to make that happen, and now it is. The U.S. Corps of Engineers says the channel would support one-way traffic in and out of the Port of Baltimore for barge, container, and some vessels that move cars and farm equipment. Officials say it is an ambitious timeline that may be impacted by significant adverse weather conditions or changes in how complex the wreckage is. In more efforts to open the port, Governor Moore said this morning, 75 containers arrived at the Port of Baltimore by rail from a vessel rerouted to New York and New Jersey ports. Now, also new today, we are hearing and seeing for the first time what divers experienced in the water at the collapse site. Take a look at your screen.
A couple inches beyond my fingertips.
All right, so you can't get to the bottom.
That right there is what they are dealing with. And yesterday, officials had told us what the divers experience is like driving in a snowstorm with headlights. And that's sort of what we're seeing right here. Officials say rescue operations are kind of being done sort of in a buddy system. A diver is paired with an operator who uses 3D renderings and pictures to guide the divers. And officials continue to stress how extensive the wreckage in the water at that collapse site is.
Those spans might have been contorted in such a way that if you were to cut it, there might be some force that's pent up.
The salvage bucket is on its way up. It's basically a giant grab that goes down to grab some of the wreckage to lift it up, the wreckage that can't be rigged individually to be put onto a barge.
As we've said before, safety and making sure that we have no more casualties and no more injuries is the highest priority of this unified command.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers says it aims to reopen the permanent 700-foot wide and 50-foot deep channel by the end of May. That's next month. Now, all of these changes are happening as tomorrow President Biden is expected to visit the Key Bridge collapse site and also talk more about federal response. Mark?